शर्मा ने भी ट्वीट किया था कि 90 सीटों के आसपास, तो शरद शर्मा भी बहुत क्लोज हैं, मतलब 88 सीट।
श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण टू काइंडली डिलीवर हर ओपनिंग एड्रेस।
Namaskar. Always good to be in the Northeast. Since last 2 or 3 years, we've been undertaking an exercise. After presenting the budget in the Parliament and before the House resumed after the intermission, the minister and the officials inclusive would go around the country, get in touch with industry and businesses, seek their view on what has been presented and tabled in the House. In that process and continuing with that now custom, we are moving around, meeting with industry leaders all over. And in the process this time, for the Northeast, we have come here to Guwahati so that we can interact. I think since the day 1st February when the budget was presented and today, much has been discussed about the budget itself. So there isn't much that I can bring in as an additional information, except to underline the fact that this budget is a budget in continuity. Continuity because we are carrying forward some of the essential policy announcements which were made last year. It's also a budget in continuity because the route for revival of the Indian economy remains the same as was announced last year. Investing big for infrastructure in India. And this time, one addition to that is that there is a broader spirit and a philosophy sort of in the PM Gati Shakti that we have announced, which will guide the infrastructure planning, investment and coordination. So, continuing with the investment in capital expenditure, being far more methodically guided and also expecting to have a synergy between the various investments which are happening in infrastructure. Gati Shakti would guide us, but equally we are also making sure that India gets ready in the next 25 years to be top of the curve by using technology in various different sectors and making India digitally ready. By digitally ready, we mean the benefit of technology in which we have the soft skills necessary in this country compared to many other countries. The soft skills will give us the necessary push, leg up, so that we can leverage on the various innovative ways and techniques which our youth are coming up with using technology, so that there can be the India stack which can get branded, and as a result of which also benefit the world, and India can lead on that ground. So it was decided that not only the basic infrastructure for digital capabilities will be well established, but it will be across the board. It will help medical tourism, it will bring in education to people in the far flung areas of the country in the form of a digital university which we want to set up, and also making sure that we will have at least 75, this year marking the 75th anniversary of India's independence. We will have at least 75 digital banking units Also digital, we are talking about digital currency, which the central bank would issue. Digital also in the way in which children can be educated, so using Doordarshan, however, also making sure through telephones, through mobiles, there is a greater access to education. Your passport is getting embedded with a chip, so e-passports are coming in. So even as we are building the infrastructure to have the Indian economy come out of the pandemic, there is this looking towards India at 100, for which the capabilities of the country are being improved. We are moving towards natural farming on the one hand, but enabling that natural farming by use of drones in better, being able to distribute the manures and fertilizers better using digital, using drone, and at the same time making sure you have better mapping of our farmyards, better, understanding of the density of the crop and therefore assessment of yields and so on. So one track where we continue with a better coordination, and the other track both leading towards India at 100 would be far more looking at technology adoption, modern ways of cultivation, yet retaining the pesticide free and so on, and both being enabled by gradual shift from traditional, not so climate friendly generation of energy. We shall be moving towards greener energy, hydrogen mission, which was announced, and now the climate commitments which Prime Minister has made at the COP26 will all have to be fulfilled in the timelines given. So the transition towards renewable energy is also getting greater attention. So these are the larger points which I'd like to highlight, the general contours of this budget. But here, when we are interacting with the businesses and the industry, I'd like to understand from you how you perceive this budget, how you see this can be even better implemented by greater participation, and your ideas are absolutely welcome. So entire ministry is here, the Chief Economic Advisor is here, Minister of State is alongside me. So I invite you to participate in today's deliberations. Thank you very much.
With your permission, we will now begin the interactive session. Thank you, ma'am. Your valuable insights have set the perfect tone for the post-budget interaction. Madam, with your permission, we will now begin the interactive session with all the stakeholders. We will be announcing the names of the representatives of trade and industry, one by one, after which they may please express their views, thoughts, or present their question to the dignitaries. The first one I would call upon Shri Bajrang Lohia, MD Lohia Group, Vice President, Federation of Northeast Region, Industries Association.
Ma'am, in Northeast, logistic problems are getting solved. A very good morning, ma'am. I thank you for giving this opportunity to be at this interactive meeting. Ma'am, in Northeast, logistic problems are getting solved with better road infrastructure, and also rail network is reaching to the remote areas. Udan scheme of our Honorable Prime Minister has given a big boost to the connectivity. And very recently, a cargo ship has come from Patna to Guwahati, and we see a huge potential in the river waterways going forward. Ma'am, if some scheme can be introduced to make river waterways more attractive compared to the road transport, it will not only save a lot of diesel to the nation, but will be more environment friendly, ma'am. Thank you.
Next, I would request Ms. Payal Jain, proprietor, Boss Network, to please present her views.
We further want to thank you for the very good morning, ma'am. Thank you for visiting Assam, Guwahati, and thank you for introducing so many welfare measures for MSME in the budget. We further want to thank you for the financial availability. Ma'am, we at Boss Network aggregate NGOs and startups and provide them with an online marketing platform. And hence there is an increase in online transactions. But even as we speak, there is very less banking penetration in this region. We have huge queues and very few banking personals. Can we have more banking network in our region? Thank you.
Please present his views. Moving on, now I would request Shri N.C. Bora, CMD GNRC Hospitals, to please present his views.
I'm from healthcare sector, so I'm in favor of requesting you, can we create a corpus which has got the potentiality of creating 16 million jobs in this country? This is regarding availability of healthcare in Tier 3 and Tier 4 cities, towns and rural India, where almost 1,000 million people live. The density of hospital bed in these areas are too poor, 3.2 against 20 beds per 10,000 people. A corpus is needed as equity because then the small entrepreneurs can come and set up hospital in these areas which can fulfill the needs of these rural people. At the same time, create enormous job. Even we can implement 10% of it, we can create 1.6 million jobs across this country. That's my request, ma'am.
Thank you for raising this issue, and I'll draw your attention to the scheme which has been brought in. Thank you for raising this issue, and I'll draw your attention to a scheme which has been brought in last year, which is a viability gap funding, and to go beyond that, the normal one, wherein Government of India provides support up to 40% of the capital cost. Thereafter, for the first 5 years of operations, on a specified OPEX item, 25% support for the first 5 years is provided. The state government is then expected to top it up to the extent required, to the extent they can afford. And at the same time, in smaller cities, Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, this scheme, the health infrastructure, then can tie up with national health authorities, with the state health authorities, to provide certain number of beds for Ayushman Bharat scheme. So in terms of bed occupancy, the assurance come not from assurance, but there is so much of unmet demand. So it's both ways. Business is fairly assured in a sense that the market forces will enable it, and it can be developed. That can be a good way rather than a pure equity. Government is ready to provide that support during implementation itself. And I'd like to just comment upon from Northeast Chamber, the comment which has come in on the water base. PM Gati Shakti in particular identifies waterways as one of the 7 engines. And I'm glad to note that this has been appreciated here. And you see it as a major potential to come in. And that gives us a more inspiration to work more energetically on that area. So we look forward to help in the whatever manner we can design our schemes and programs in that direction. Thank you.
I'd like to supplement what Mr. Ajay Seth has said and bring to your attention that there is also a credit loan guarantee scheme which the central government has announced. I would just like to supplement what Mr. Ajay Seth has said and bring to your attention that there is also a credit loan guarantee scheme which the central government has announced for hospitals in Tier 2 and lower tier towns and cities, where 50% of the loan will be guaranteed by the Government of India. And if it is in aspirational districts, it can go up to 75%. I think there is a need for greater awareness of these schemes, and I would certainly, I welcome your intervention, and I would ask you to please get in touch with the banks here and see if you can make use of those schemes. They are specifically targeted at Tier 2 and below, and particularly at aspirational districts where there's a guaranteed loan, guaranteed in the sense that the default will be covered by the Government of India for the bank. So the bank offers it at a much lower rate of interest. They also have a concessional refinancing facility from the Reserve Bank of India for these loans. So I would request you to please explore that also. That is specifically targeted at the areas that you are mentioning. In addition to that, you are talking about private sector healthcare. On the governmental side, we are taking special efforts to increase bed capacity in a lot of the district towns. Medical colleges are being opened. The National Health Mission is being expanded, and many new wellness centers are being created across the rural areas. That is in the public healthcare side. And of course, there is the Prime Minister's Ayushman Bharat scheme, where if you do open a private hospital in one of these places, the demand side of it is taken care of by the Ayushman Bharat scheme, where people are covered up to 5 lakhs for certain kinds of treatment. So actually there is a comprehensive approach to it. I'm not sure whether it has actually made its presence felt in the Northeast, but certainly it is a useful feedback to us. But I would call upon you and your colleagues also to push this further with the banks. Thank you.
I'm able to see some state government officials here. Yes, how are you? Good to see you. You were with me in the Defense Ministry and you are here now. I'm so glad to see you. It might help the state government's officials to pull all these suggestions which have come in response to a question for improving medical facilities in the tier 2, tier 3 cities in Assam. It might help to have one official from the state, and I wish you can, please sit down. You can pass this message on to the Health Secretary, Principal Secretary of Health, and pull all these answers which have come to you as schemes or government's awards in such different ways to strengthen the medical infrastructure in Tier 2 and Tier 3. They may be through a viability gap funding program of the banks. It can also be the CG credit guaranteed approach to building hospitals. It can also be for giving further assistance to the hospital. It can bring in new beds, whatever be it. Or even enroll more patients under, more citizens under the Ayushman Bharat. There should be one official from the health department here who can pull all this information together and put it in Assami and spread it all over the state so that itni sare, when we are giving schemes after schemes with a clear intention of tier 2 and tier 3 medical capacities, I think for want of information we shouldn't suffer. Somebody should gather this information, put it in websites, also distribute it to existing hospitals if they want to expand capacities.
There was a suggestion about the less penetration of the banking network in the northeastern region. The Honorable Finance Minister just now mentioned that in the budget speech there is talk about 75 digital banking units to be set up. So I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that the move forward, the direction in which the whole country and the world is moving is digital. And so while we will be setting up these 75 digital banking units, I would like to assure all of you from the Northeast that the less serviced areas like the northeastern regions, they will certainly get priority when we select the districts for setting up these 75 DBUs in the country.
This credit guarantee
Thank
scheme
you.
has a time limit. As of now, sorry, just one thing I would add to the attention of both Government of Assam and the private healthcare. This credit guarantee scheme has a time limit. As of now, it will be extended for another 3 months till June 2022. So I would request you to expedite your survey of which districts or places in the Northeast are there where the private sector is interested to start something in these tier 2 and other towns, and please expedite the applications to the bank so that you catch the scheme before the scheme crosses its revised deadline of 30th June.
Thank you, ma'am and sirs. Next, I would request Shri Vidyananda Barkakoti, Partner, Mahalakshmi Tea Estate.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Vidyananda Barkakoti. I'm a tea farmer. And I am also a former vice chairman of Tea Board India. Ma'am, you are Union Commerce Minister, so you know this industry very well. And ma'am, there are a lot of issues with the tea industry, as you know very well. But it can get resolved if we reach the 300 million kilogram target of exports. Ma'am, if I remember well, you were Commerce Minister till September 2017. And that is the year when India reached the highest exports ever. That was a record exports during your tenure, ma'am. It was 256 million kgs when we reached, which was actually, we thought that it was not achievable. So, but otherwise, the exports from India is always hovering around 200 million kgs. So our target is to reach 300 million kgs, where a lot of our problems will get resolved if we can do that. And ma'am, with the new waterways now opening up through Bangladesh, and Northeast can be the hub of exports for tea. Northeast as a whole produces 55% of our country's tea, and Guwahati or other parts of Northeast can become a hub if there is a particular, say, scheme for exporting from Northeast under the Act East policy. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving on, I would request Ms. Jahanvi Fukan, Director Jungle Travels India Group, Director Assam Bengal Navigation, and also she's the former FICCI Flow President.
Namaste, Nirmalaji and team. Thank you for this great opportunity to interface with us. I would like to ask that in the Prime Minister's Development Initiative for Northeast region, a number of projects have been initiated, like the establishment of dedicated services for the management of pediatrics and adult hematolymphoid cancers, the livelihood improvement projects under NECTAR, which is the Northeast Center for Technology Application and Reach, and scientific, which are looking after scientific organic agriculture in Northeast India. But these are all multi-state projects. For better implementation, coordination, and raising finances, is there a proposal to make a comprehensive scheme for Northeast region under the NEC, the Northeast Council, for private players, which includes all elements of the Prime Minister's Development Initiative, as well as the PM Gati Shakti, so that more investors are encouraged to come here. Further, the development initiatives that can be done at the level of NEC Council, for which a greater financial outlay, if it could be made. What is the outlook of the ministry on this? Thank you.
The PM Divine, the development initiative for the Northeast. So this is a new... So thank you for your question. I think you made a reference to the PM Divine, the development initiative for the Northeast. So this is a new program. It has an initial allocation of 1,500 crores, and you have read out some of the projects that will be in the first year's priority list. This scheme is primarily intended to support public sector programs, not necessarily interstate. Some are interstate, some are within certain states. They are going to be implemented through the Northeastern Council. So it will not go through the state governments. The state governments will implement, but it will be monitored and routed through the Northeastern Council. So to that extent, there will be a multi-state focus and a coordinated management effort. As regards private participation, I would again draw your attention to the multiple schemes that the government has announced, including, for example, in the budget speech, there was a reference to enhanced credit to micro and small enterprises through the CGT MSC. We have these credit loan guarantee schemes, which have been rolled out both for, as I said, hospitals earlier, but also for tourism and hospitality. These schemes are live. They offer guaranteed credit in different eligibility criteria. And there are a number of other initiatives. We have one more thing which is very important, which is that in the budget, there's an announcement of 1 lakh crores of capital expenditure loans to state governments, in which a significant part will come to the Northeast. And I may also mention that in the last 2 years, each northeastern state has got at least 200 crores of interest-free 50-year loans under this scheme. So for the Northeast, this is actually the third year in which a very significant amount will be coming. That can be used intelligently by state governments to support projects which will also help the development of the private sector, but it is meant for public infrastructure. But public infrastructure in support of private projects is certainly possible under that scheme also.
Is specifically for private sector, viability gap funding of Government of India covers education, health, and even tourism. So imaginatively, more than 20%. These are the sectors which requires a larger support. The scheme provides for it. So through state government or directly, please get in touch with us. And the concerned joint secretary dealing with public-private partnership, Mr. Piyush Kumar, is here. So maybe after the meeting, you can interact with him and exchange your contact details, and thereafter take that conversation forward. Thank you, ma'am.
Accountants Association to please present his question. Thank you, sir. Now I would request Shri Naveen Dhandharia, Secretary, Tinsukia Commercial Accountants Association, to please present his question.
Thank you, ma'am, for visiting this and giving us opportunity to speak before you. I am basically from Tier 3 city, Tinsukia. Basically, the city is flooded with traders there. As in MSME, you have already included the traders, and I want to have some more benefits, like for unjust enrichment, the fund goes to Consumer Welfare Fund. If there can be a policy decision that a portion of that amount goes to MSME sector, and the traders which have been included in MSME gets the benefit of that fund, like the bank rate reduction. So mostly the women entrepreneurs of Tinsukia town will be benefited by getting the retail banking loans. And since Tinsukia is having retail entrepreneurship, industries are less, it will have a big boost in that segment. And there are few suggestions on budget which will help the traders there very much to do ease of doing business. Like the GST TDS, there should be 2 changes to incorporate the invoice number and invoice date. So the reconciliation and everything will be automated, and the issuance of notice will go very less, and system-driven reconciliations can be done. Second, if due to fake invoicing and everything, the government has taken a very welcome measure by introducing in this budget, Section 38, a good measure. I would like and suggest that 2 more conditions should be added. The buyers should be given an option to upload the invoice which the supplier has not given in his return. It will help the government to collect the prima facie evidence that the supplier is not giving the details of these invoices, and a tax intelligence unit can take care of that invoices, and the buyer will be entitled to get seamless flow of input credit. The main question all over India, if the buyer is allowed to give the details of such invoices, what the supplier is doing, first not giving the details of invoices, defrauding the revenue, and the government is taking measures to catch him. Just one simple amendment, allow buyers to upload that invoices. Append information will be there in the server itself, and the tax intelligence unit can get the data and do a miracle in collection of revenue, and it will ensure the seamless flow of credit. Thank you, ma'am.
I'll only suggest, you made 2-3 suggestions. I've taken note of them, but if you can also, after the meeting, take my contact number or give it to the local, Mr. Kannan must be here. So if you can give it to him, and then it'll be passed on to me. You have made some good, valid suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I would request Shri Roshan Farhan, founder Go Billion, to please present his thoughts.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving us this opportunity to interact with you on the post-budget analysis for 2022. I'm the founder CEO of a social commerce company called Go Billion, mostly operational in the eastern part of the country. I have a question focused on the, there was a proposal in the budget around post offices being now new banking channels and getting them in the core banking system, which would lead to more financial inclusion, especially in smaller towns and tier 3, tier 4 towns as well. My first question is, what is the way forward, especially for getting the system on the ground, with a specific focus in Northeast India? And number two, will post offices now be a new banking channel where customers can go and interact in a normal banking environment?
The idea of anytime, anywhere banking to be provided or small savings products to be provided through post offices, visit to post offices will not be needed. One can do it from a website, one can do it from an app. So taking the concept for small saving products, one need not visit any office. One can even open an account from the app itself and upload the documents which are required. So anytime, anywhere, postal savings product. That is what the post office announcement this year is. And government expect that within this calendar year, this will be fully operational.
As regards the digitization efforts, one effort, of course, was mentioned, which is with regard to the DBU. The way forward, as mentioned, the government certainly intends to push more and more of digital banking and bringing in its ambit all services, not only banking, but other financial services like insurance, pension, etc. Already the government in the last 4-5 years has given a push to it. Just to give you some idea, in the last 4 years or so, from 2017 to 2021, the number of digital transactions therefore has gone up by about 6.5 times. And you are aware of the number of initiatives that have been taken, UPI being one of them. The RuPay card is another such initiative. The MDR charges, you are aware, for UPI and RuPay, etc., have been also, made zero. So these are some of the initiatives which have been taken. And going forward, again, the push is to push more and more of digital banking and other financial services.
And this also partly relates to...
Thank you, sir.
I'd just like to supplement what Mr. Ajay Seth said. So I think your question was specifically with reference to the post offices. And this also partly relates to another question which was asked earlier about physical bank branches in the Northeast. So I'm aware that there are connectivity problems in many parts of the Northeast where the digital system doesn't necessarily work well. So you can have the app, but your phone connectivity may not be good enough to do the transaction. So the enablement of every single post office on the core banking system, which is envisaged to happen this year, will mean that effectively every post office will be like a physical bank branch to the extent that it relates to the India Post Payments Bank. The India Post Payments Bank doesn't give credit. So it's not a bank in that sense, but it takes deposits, it can make payments, it can issue demand drafts, it can give cash. So normal customer banking transactions can happen at every post office. It is as good as a bank branch once this initiative is fully rolled out, even without digital connectivity on the part of the user. The user can physically go. Another facility that is envisaged is that postmen can also carry out many of these transactions at the doorstep. So connectivity or availability of smartphone facilities by the consumer is not essential. The postman will carry these devices and act as a banking correspondent. So these will help in terms of traditional deposit banking outreach. The credit system, of course, is still separate. That depends only on the regular banks. Payments banks do not offer credit, they only offer deposits.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sirs. Next, I would like to call upon Ms. Tanushri Hazarika, Director, Brahmaputra Valley Film Festival, to kindly present her thoughts.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Tanushri. I run a couple of businesses in media and communication. I have a question. Good morning, ma'am and the team. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Tanushri. I run a couple of businesses in media and communication. I have a question. So given the volatility borne by the Indian economy because of the impact of the highly unpredictable events that's going on worldwide, and having learned from various instances, the Indian government must be taking its steps to safeguard its strategic interests. But as the entrepreneurs of New Age India with Atmanirbhar Bharat to support our ventures, which fields and areas do you think we should focus and prioritize on to align our goals best with the national interests and requirements?
See, this is a wider question that certainly in critical areas, we should be producing, we should be self-sufficient, Atmanirbhar Bharat. At the same time, where we have comparative advantage, we should also be producing for the world. Specifically for Northeast, we should be focusing on what are the comparative advantages are there, and focus on those areas and produce those things here. Kind of a support which is needed, what the governments can provide, either the state government or Government of India can provide. A whole lot of policies are now being directed in that direction. Now, their MSMEs are a critical part. Now, where the productivity link incentive Government of India has provided, these are the critical items where there was a high dependence on its imports. At the same time, these are the sector where there's a large labor intensive sectors are there. So those are at the macro level. Now, at the same time, the complementary role which MSMEs can provide, the startups can provide to be as a supplier to those large industries. So here, each region working on its comparative advantage with support from the government to be self-reliant in the sense within the country, we have the capability to produce what we need and also produce where we have the comparative advantage for the world.
Actually, it's very refreshing to see a question that asks the government as to what private sector could do to align itself with the strategic interests. The very first answer I would think of is scale as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible. Because one of the things we miss in the Indian industry, excepting very few cases, is scale in the international, to be able to compete in the international market. So scaling up strategically will be the first priority. The second priority would be to obviously choose markets from which you source your products, your inputs, which are strategically aligned, and also the markets that you serve should also be in strategic alignment with the government's vision. And of course, the third opportunity would be to see, as you scale, you have to strike the right balance between technology and employment. As an entrepreneur, obviously, it will be natural inclination to go for cost-saving technology. But at the same time, where we need to apply our mind in terms of the local context in India is, are we doing it at the expense of employment? Or is there a better balance we can find between labor-saving technology and labor-generating technology? These are the three priorities, I think, which the private sector can focus on to align itself with national goals and national interest. Thank you.
I would just add one small thing to be a little more specific. I think there are certain sectors where the government has announced production-linked incentive schemes. So there are industries where PLI schemes have been announced. those who are not necessarily applicants to the PLI schemes have an opportunity to become component suppliers to these schemes. So it may be something specific for you to look at to see which are the PLI schemes, who gets chosen to carry out those schemes, and those names are in public. The respective departments will publish the names of the successful applicants for PLI schemes. Many of these are very big companies, some are not. There are some sectors like textiles where even small companies can directly apply for the PLI scheme. In most of the other sectors, the initial applicant would be a large industry. But if you have the list of successful PLI applicants who have been commissioned to do a certain amount of production, most of them will be looking to indigenize their component base, because in their own interest to reduce logistics costs, to reduce dependencies, to reduce supply chain risks like what you're seeing right now with trade routes getting clogged or stopped. So they will be on the lookout for component suppliers. So that is a potential list of people whom you can approach in order to see if you can become a supplier to them.
On a broader scale, Northeast has just a lot of endowments, lot of products on offer. But even as government, I was glad to hear somebody who spoke about the tea industry. But even as government and various other agencies which are partly government, the one big challenge I've noticed for the Northeast is want of people belonging to the Northeast taking up that bridging role. What do I mean by that? On the one hand, I'm saying there's enough product on offer. There's enough that Northeast produces. There's enough that Northeast can generate. But there are two things which I find missing. There is no aggregation in the economy which lubricates the economy here. Like for instance, there are products, let us say organic products, but we find it very difficult to have somebody who can aggregate it all and help me to export it, for instance. So I can't have a government agency, however much they are meant for doing this job. They can't come and do it because they sit somewhere. They're headquartered in, Delhi, Patna, Kolkata, anywhere. But to have a local network which can economically be able to aggregate the material, keep it available, brand it, don't brand it, aggregate it. So, in several fields, the absence of that field-related aggregator is a big gap in the Northeast. So for each one of, let us say the perishable, there was this interesting episode that I had in the US where one of the global logistics company, global top 1, top 2, said he's interested in lifting everything which is produced in India and take it to the global market, provided we are able to tell him as to which are the nodes from where he can collect it. So if it were to be some crop produced in Madhya Pradesh, we know where we can ask him to collect it. If it were to be somewhere in the Western India, yes. Southern India, yes. But Northeast, no, we don't. In fact, I wouldn't mind suggesting to anyone who wants to make that difference socially is to identify such people, tell them that there is facility available, help available with the government, and make them become aggregators of, let us say, perishable foods, organic dry, whatever, herbs and medicines, or processed organic material, anything else which Northeast has its own unique products. Who's going to aggregate? Because many of the producers are small and medium. They themselves don't own hectares of lands from which they give us the produce. So aggregators, one. Second, because of the very topography, logistics is always a challenge in Northeast. Government can build roads. Now additionally this year we have given 1 lakh crore for all the states for 50 years without interest. Northeast each state gets its own amount. You will build roads again, or you build bridges, you bring in railways, you bring in smaller airports like Udaan, which can feed into larger airports. But even then, the last mile connectivity in terms of logistics is just not the road. There should also be operators who are going to use those roads to be able to provide those facilities. Logistics also, warehousing. You need at different points warehousing. In fact, in this budget, and in fact, in the interactions which PM is having between the day about 11 interactions have happened post the budget has been presented. He has highlighted how in this budget we are even providing for these areas. Logistics goes along or is always dovetailed with warehousing facility. Northeast again. Now, warehouse for each state, when you do it from a centralized budget which takes care of all the states, you would provide for each state some minimal amount. But it is also for the local entrepreneurs to see that the opportunity exists there and come into warehousing, seek banks' helps. Bank help can also provide you with additional capital. So Northeast, I would think, in any area, aggregation, in any area, the last mile connectivity, together with warehousing, will get over many of your problems. You can directly send it over to the Southeast Asian nations. You can directly send it over to Bangladesh. You can always look at the Indian Ocean islands. You have a great advantage. But all of us will have to go to those key gaps and fill them.
Thank you, ma'am, for elaborating such a pressing issue. Next, I would request Shri Ishan Gupta, Manager, Godrej Consumer, to present his thoughts.
Thank you, madam, for giving this opportunity. In fact, I'll thank you for giving Northeast a special emphasis by announcing PM Gati Shakti Yojana. My question is in same regard. If we go by logistic ease across the state report of Ministry of Commerce, we see Northeast states still sit at the bottom in terms of relative ranking. So can we expect a similar kind of support which we have got in this budget in the future also, because it is very important for industry to see future and establish themselves in the region?
See, post the announcement, kindly have a seat, the next step, and wherein the state government comes in very prominently, is to look at which are the missing links in the infrastructure, especially on the logistics side. The way PM Gati Shakti approach for planning infrastructure. As Finance Minister said, that everything may be there, but last mile connectivity will be missing. Not just stopping at the state level from one state to another, within the district itself, get that GIS platform which Bharat Sarkar has put it together, join that platform and then plan it, and that throws up the missing links, and that will help us in directing our investment, both government of India, state government, private sector, into those areas so that the logistics can improve upon it. If I were to say in one word, it is about logistic efficiencies to be gained, missing links to be taken care. So very rightly put question, and that's the very exactly the way PM Gati Shakti wants us to move forward.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would request Shri Saurabh Sekia.
I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Seth said. Answer to your question is yes, it will continue in future also. And you can look at the track record that over the last 3 years, the capital outlay for capital expenditure has increased by more than 100%. It's not a one-year phenomenon. It has happened consecutively for 3 years. There have been very substantial step-ups. And as regards the Northeast, apart from PM Gati Shakti, we have the Northeastern State Infrastructure Development Scheme, for which the budget has been increased. And we have this new PM Divine, which is 1,500 crores this year and will also continue in years for the future. And for the Northeast, these are significant sums of money. In addition, there is the capital expenditure loan that is specific to this year. Its continuation will be reassessed for next year. But in general, I can say that yes, this emphasis on building infrastructure in the Northeast will definitely continue.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would request Shri Saurabh Sekia, Proprietor, ESES BioWealth.
Good morning, ma'am, and to all the dignitaries on the dais. We are a bamboo wood manufacturing unit. We are based in Jagi Road. And as we all know, Assam has huge reserves of bamboo. And currently, a lot of MSME units are coming up around Assam. So, ma'am, my question is that can bamboo sector look for some kind of incentive packages in the coming budget or like something like that?
Isn't the National Bamboo Mission doing that work? They are the ones who are actually promoting, supporting, hand-holding bamboo growers in order to get a fairer and better price, and also bringing in industry which has to be working on bamboo-related products.
Yes, ma'am, but just that the state bamboo missions are not operating much efficiently in that way. So that's why if the finance ministry could, assist directly in developing any policy in this regard.
All right, take your suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would request Shri Ashok Pansari, Chancellor, Royal Global University and CMD, Royal Group of Companies, to present his views.
Congratulations, madam, you and your government under the leadership of our Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji for managing the COVID 2 years so beautifully, especially to you for being the finance minister and without putting any additional burden on the citizen of the country. Thank you. I would like to put forward two concerns, in fact, two suggestions in the sector where I am involved. One is higher education and another is real estate with special emphasis on Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Ma'am, the mission Housing for All by 2022 was a wonderful idea of our Prime Minister, and it went well for the last 3 years. But during COVID, it was disturbed. Much could have been done, which could not be done. And yet, the scheme has been going to be terminated by 31/3/2022. I am told that tax holiday regime is being taken, government is not very keen on giving tax holidays. But the idea of income tax is not only to collect taxes, but there are social schemes as well to promote a particular region or promote a particular sector. While there is a huge demand for affordable houses in the country, and in our state, not much has been done as far as PMA urban is concerned, and especially in credit-linked subsidy scheme. The scheme is over by 31/3/22. The flat buyers will not be entitled for the subsidy which is prescribed 2,67,000, so they will be deprived. Secondly, the developer, for them, there was incentive that they will get tax holiday. That is also going to be terminated by 31/3/22. I think both were very important to promote this sector. Another 2 years could have been extended, and especially in our region, much has not been done as far as Prime Minister Awas Yojana urban is concerned. There is a section 80EEA where 1,50,000 additional deduction was allowed for the first time flat buyer. That is also related to the same, which is also going to be terminated. Another point was related to GST into Prime Minister Awas Yojana affordable houses, where 1% GST is leviable up to the flat price of 40 lakh. Considering the fact that their price have been enhanced quite considerably in the last few years, this 45 limit could have been, because in a city like ours where the cap is 90 meters, square meter house, the 45 could not be the price where we can offer the flat. So this 45 limit cap could be increased to at least 50 lakh. We also have observed that there is an amount of 48,000 crore earmarked for this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana under the budget, but we do not find anything about the extension of the time for subsidy as well as tax holidays. So that may be clarified. About higher education, ma'am, the NEP 2022 is a very futuristic policy. We welcome various provisions. I would like to emphasize only the one which is related where the finance is to play, the role of finance is to come. Ma'am, the policy speaks about the level playing field of the private players as well as the government. You would appreciate the fact that 78% of the institution in higher education is from the private sector. And the enrollment ratio percentage is 66%. So we had a great role to play in higher education. As such, we would like that good number of funding percentage should go or earmark for the promotion of higher education in private sector. Especially for northeastern region where we have lot of challenges, inter alia, our geographical location. For the last 50 years, the students from this region, for various regions, are going for the study of their higher education into other states and abroad, because there were no quality education institution here, especially in private sector. In last 10 years, some of the good quality private institution, including universities, including my own, the Assam Royal Global University has come into existence. But after having put a lot of amount invested in infrastructure, land and building, we are facing a lot of challenges, including the problem about finances for research, manpower, and especially the quality of the students. And this is a one-way traffic where students will go from our region, the whole of the northeastern region, to the other parts of the country, but none will come for various reasons again. The people from other parts will also not come here to be teacher here. Under these circumstances, ma'am, our people also like to see the private institutions like Amethi, like Symbiosis, to be in our region as well. So the universities which have been considerably fair enough, they have maybe in existence for 5 or so years, they have NAC accreditation or some parameter can be fixed. Those who has fulfilled these kind of parameter could be given some funding assistance for their research work and for many other development of the universities. That's all, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, I am not answering it, but so basically you are talking of two provisions in taxation. One is the one that is available to developers and the other one which is available to the individuals who would invest. So just for your information, for the individuals already under section 24B, 2 lakhs is already allowed. So this was over and above that 1.5 lakhs, which was allowed, I think, maybe 3 years ago in the finance bill, and has already been extended twice already. So we have taken note of your suggestions, and we'll have a talk on that and see what is it.
Can go back to that agarbatti bamboo matter. Yesterday we were, meaning day before yesterday, we were in Bangalore, and one of the things which a very famous agarbatti manufacturer told was that he's not getting enough bamboo and he needs to import. And because he has to import, the duty which was raised on importing bamboo, because Northeast is full of it, we said Atmanirbhar, so we raised the duty. So he says, I'm not getting bamboo now, please reduce the duty. And here is a bamboo grower who's saying we need help. So who helps to bridge this gap? There is market existing for a particular variety of bamboo. Northeast is rich in bamboo. Within the country, that's not available for the agarbatti. And he's not a small-time agarbatti manufacturer. The one who asked me the question in the meeting of a similar kind was a huge, big manufacturer. Then I'm not getting enough bamboo. Okay, import? No, but you made the duties higher, so I can't import. So that, ma'am, Lady Hazarika, that is the mismatch. And here, rightly, the grower says, give me help. So there has got to be a way in which we understand what within India is demanded and which you have already. How are you going to link the two? I'll actually give you the address of the fellow who spoke to me. It might help you to know whether you can at all help by linking him to that variety of bamboo grower and see if supplies can be improved.
Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting this matter. Next, I would request Ms. Jasmeena Ziliang, President CII Nagaland Chapter and CEO Faith Hospital.
Good morning. I think that was a wrong introduction. My name is Jasmeena Ziliang, yes, but I am from the textiles and crafts sector, and I'm from Nagaland, yes. So, Madam, this morning I wanted to speak about the newly introduced PM Divine Scheme, which the initial allocation does not seem to include any specific initiatives aimed at developing women's capacities. Ma'am, as I'm from the textiles and crafts sector, which is actually the core of all manufacturing activities in the Northeast, and this is a sector where women are the major stakeholders. So this morning, my question to you is, if any percentage of the funds allocated has been earmarked or reserved for increasing women's capacities. Secondly, if the scheme can cover trade promotional activities to facilitate participation of our entrepreneurs to international fairs, whereby a certain reservation is made for women again. And lastly, but most importantly, to raise the bar of our women in the region. Ma'am, I'm very happy that you spoke about infrastructure development and aggregation centers, and this is what exactly I also wanted to pitch. Ma'am, if we can have industrial parks only for women in this region, across all the 8 northeastern states, whereby women from all sectors can come and aggregate their businesses. Thank you.
2-3 things. Please sit down. In the PM Divine, the scheme meaning an apportionment of some resources through the Northeast Council, is for the states to come up with anything that they want and take the fund. So if the state understands the advantage it has because of the women and the women's skills and their potential, and if they submit a proposal accordingly, they're going to get it. One. Second, you may not think I'm being helpful at all, but I'll have to say something. Whenever you ask for a carve-out within an outlay, sometimes what happens is appropriate projects don't come and that remains unutilized. The next year they would say, nothing happens in that area, just pull this money in. Instead, you are welcome to have not 10 proposals, all women driven. Through your site, submit it and take it. So, whilst I appreciate the point that you're highlighting, that if Northeast and the women and the skills that they have and the leadership that they show, like for instance, I'm sitting in Guwahati, but please allow me to give you the example of Manipur, the women's market in Manipur. So if there are examples already here, I'm sure the respective state governments can take it up. It need not be propped up from elsewhere. You take that lead, you give it to the state authorities and let the state government pitch with it. Nothing stops it.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would request Shri Sarat Kumar Jain, CMD SM Group of Companies, to present his views.
At the very outset, Madam, our heartiest compliments to you for bringing out such a pragmatic and growth-oriented budget in spite of pandemic. I am drawing your attention to the 2 main aspects. One is regarding the development of housing sector, and second is to give importance to the growth of infrastructure, and such that Gati Shakti has come, which is a big initiative. So far this housing sector is concerned, already my previous speaker, Mr. Pasari, has brought some very relevant points. Only thing one I like to add, if the ministry could consider the GST input credit so that the cost becomes too much under control for the developer. Secondly, regarding for development of the infrastructure, Madam, it is seen that sanctioning authorities in bank, they are feeling shy for giving approval to the large proposal. We don't know the exact reason, what has been made to understand that they are really scared of some sort of probe and some investigation when the loan goes bad, whereas they feel that they have been doing a lot of justice while sanctioning the proposal. So these are the two aspects which I wanted to bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would request Shri Deepak Kumar Singh, Director, Ozone Pharmaceutical, to please present his thoughts.
Good morning, Madam. Welcome to Northeast. In fact, there are very small, niggling issues relating to late fee, penalties, interest on compliant taxpayers who have defaulted due to beyond their control. So on 5th anniversary, just request for an amnesty scheme which will clean the slate for several otherwise compliant taxpayers in one go, and they can start fresh journey. So thank you, ma'am.
I think the last amnesty scheme got over only in August or September last year. So a lot of people actually cleaned up their balance sheets and cleaned up their areas and came back to the thing. But we have noted your point.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would invite K.K. Srivastava, DGM Dharmpal Satyapal Limited, to please present his thoughts.
Thank you for the visionary budget of 2022, in which Northeast region has got its consideration. As you are aware, Madam, Land Port Authority of India is constructing integrated checkposts at various land custom stations along the border of Myanmar and Bangladesh. But due to COVID in various other regions, trade has been virtually nil. Can I take this opportunity to request the special concessional rate of duty for imports from neighboring countries only through land customs station? We are sure that if this concession is extended for imports only through land customs stations, the traders will definitely prefer it.
I have noted down this suggestion.
Thank you, sir. Next, I would call upon Shri Niranjan Gupta, Finance and Commercial Manager, Britannia.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam, for this opportunity. Northeast Industrial Development Scheme was announced in 2018, effective from 2017. However, it has not been authorized through any notification and guidelines. As such, the benefit under the scheme not yet passed to the industry. So I would request your help, ma'am, so it can be expedited. And also, ma'am, this scheme is going to lapse on 31st March 2022. So there is no more scheme over there. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would invite Ms. Anita Sharma, proprietor Chetna and IOSIS, to put forward her thoughts.
Good morning, madam. Thank you very much for visiting Guwahati and Northeast so often. It really gives us a great feeling of belongingness and recognition. Ma'am, I have a startup from the health and beauty sector, and this is a sector which has got hampered the most during the COVID times. I would want to request that if you could come up with some special packages for the health and beauty industry so that we could revive back and rebuild ourselves in a year's time. We also have many MSMEs in northeastern states, and access to credit has always been a big problem. So if you could help us know how we could avail smaller loans for smaller businesses.
I'm glad you asked, but there was a special announcement made in this budget and one Atmanirbhar announcement prior to the budget, for contact intensive industry within which you would come anyway. I'm sure there is a way in which you... Anything else you want to add, Somanathan or Sanjay, on it?
Hospitality and related. It is part of it. CLGS 3, it is part of it. And it was mentioned in the budget also.
So there is already, as was also previously alluded to, there is already this emergency credit linked scheme specifically for the hospitality sector, and there is another scheme for the hospitals, but I think you were referring to the hospitality sector. So under that, up to 30% of the existing loans are already additional loans if one wants to take. They are guaranteed by the government. Not only brownfield, but even greenfield projects, new projects can also be taken up under that scheme.
I just want to clarify that the term used in the budget speech, hospitality and related, very much includes the sectors that you have referred to, such as beauty parlors and things. They are very much part of what is intended in that sentence, and they do qualify under this ECLGS window that he's referring to for guaranteed credit. So you should probably approach the banks and I would DFS.
Very much, yeah.
Thank you, sirs. Now I would call upon Shri Tony Borang, Chairman, Allied Arunachal Pradesh Multi-Purpose Cooperative Society, to please present his thoughts.
Thank you very much. मैं हिंदी से कोशिश करूँगा. आज यहाँ एक स्पीकर भी हिंदी नहीं चला रहा हो. तो मैं अरुणाचल प्रदेश बहुत बैकवर्ड जगह से आया हूँ. लोअर दिबांग वैली डाम्बुक, लैंड ऑफ ऑरेंजेस, जहाँ एक ऑरेंज फेस्टिवल का आयोजन होता है और उसमें मार्मिस्टिंग गॉड ऑफ जीटर्स इंडिया में फर्स्ट टाइम उसने कदम रखा था. तो मेरा सजेशन आज इस तरह का है. हम फार्मर हैं, कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी चलाता हो. फिलहाल एक जिला परिषद मेंबर के रूप में समाज को सेवा भी कर रहा हूँ. तो एजुकेशन सेक्टर का टॉपिक है. बहुत लोग से मैं ये सजेशन लिया. फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर हमें एक मौका दे रहा हूँ कि पोस्ट बजट इंटरेक्शन. तो बहुत लोग इस तरह से सजेशन दिया कि इस बार का एजुकेशन सेक्टर का जो बजट है बहुत अच्छा है. इसमें थोड़ा सा एक सुझाव है कि पैन इंडिया रखते हुए हमारा नॉर्थ ईस्ट पर कुछ और टेक्निकल मेडिकल इंस्टीट्यूशन थोड़ा बढ़ाया जाए. हमारा यहाँ का स्टूडेंट बहुत दूर दूर तक सफ़र करके पढ़ाई करना पड़ता है. तो मैडम से यही हमारा पब्लिक से अनुरोध है, आप यहाँ थोड़ा इंस्टीट्यूशन एस्टेब्लिशमेंट को बढ़ाया जाए. और हमारा मोदी, प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी का विजन है डिजिटल इंडिया. ये शायद बजट में है. डिजिटल इंडिया को सफलता में लाने के लिए कैशलेस ट्रांजैक्शन जरूरी है. तो मैं एक ऐसा जगह से बिलोंग करता हूँ, अरुणाचल का सबसे पहला आईएएस जिससे आया हो, 42nd डाम्बुक असेंबली कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी, लोअर दिबांग वैली डिस्ट्रिक्ट. मेरा कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में आज तक एक एटीएम भी नहीं है. इसलिए हमें शेड्यूल बैंक की जरूरी है तो मैडम एंड आपका टीम को आज सहायता मांगूंगा। हमारा एरिया में डिजिटल इंडिया को सक्सेस करने के लिए कम से कम एक शेड्यूल बैंक एस्टेब्लिश हो। हमारा फार्मर बहुत मेहनती है, बहुत दूर में जाके पैसा नहीं रख सकता है, पॉकेट में कैश रखता है, घर में कैश रखता है, तो डिजिटल इंडिया वो नहीं होता है। तो ये मेरा एक दरखास्त है। और यहाँ सुनने में आया है नॉर्थ ईस्ट से काफ़ी इनकम टैक्स ऑफिसर्स वगैरह को विड्रॉ करने का स्कोप है बिकॉज ऑफ नॉन प्रैक्टिकल टैक्स कलेक्शन, स्पेशली हमारा अरुणाचल में। तो हमारा पब्लिक का सुझाव है कि ये सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का एस्टैब्लिशमेंट विड्रॉ नहीं होना चाहिए, इवन इफ वहाँ कोई प्रैक्टिकल टैक्सेशन नहीं है। तो मेरा पड़ोसी देश चाइना बार बार हमारा देश को क्लेम करता है, हमारा प्रदेश को क्लेम करता है, तो ये गलत मैसेज हो सकता है। हमारा प्रदेश में सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का एसेट एक्टिविटीज बहुत कम है, तो इसमें हम पब्लिक भी थोड़ा लॉस हो जाता है। तो इसलिए हमारा पब्लिक का दरखास्त है ऑफिस और बनना चाहिए। दो वहाँ कुछ रेगुलर टैक्सेशन नहीं होता है, तो भी हमारा पब्लिक को इनकरेजमेंट करने के लिए, पब्लिक प्रॉब्लम को अटेंड करने के लिए ऑफिसेस रहना चाहिए। और मैम अभी आत्मनिर्भर का स्कीम चल रहा है एग्रीकल्चर में, हॉर्टिकल्चर में, उसमें हमारा बेनिफिशरीज को, पब्लिक बेनिफिशरीज को बैंक वाला ग्रांटर मांगता है। वो ग्रांटर गवर्नमेंट रेगुलर एम्प्लॉइज होना पड़ेगा। हर फार्मर कहाँ से रेगुलर गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉय मिलेगा? ये एक मोदी सरकार का, प्रेजेंट गवर्नमेंट का बहुत अच्छा मिशन है आत्मनिर्भर। उसमें फार्मर को सब्सिडीज दे करके एग्रीकल्चर टूल्स, क्रॉपिंग वगैरह में असिस्टेंट मिलता है। ये इम्प्रैक्टिकल करवा रहा है हमारा बैंक वालों ने। तो बोलता है आप गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉइज ग्रांटर लेके आओ। There is very limited government employees surrounding to us. Wherefrom we manage the such grantor. और कहता है कि अरुणाचल का लोग बैंक में रिकॉर्ड खराब है। पहले का लोग खराबता होगा, आज तो बदल चुका है, सरकार भी बदला है, पब्लिक भी बदल चुका है। उस रिकॉर्ड से हमारा प्रोग्रेसिव फार्मर को तंग नहीं किया जाना चाहिए। तो आज ये मैडम आपसे दरखास्त है, इसको आप काइंडली स्टेप लीजिए। और एक और सुझाव है हमारा दाम्बुक में लैंड ऑफ ऑरेंजेस, अरुणाचल का नंबर 1 ऑरेंज प्रोड्यूस होता है। दुबई में भी गया है, स्पाइसजेट ने एक्सपोर्ट किया था। तो आज रैपिड डिक्लाइनिंग हो रहा है। तो इसके लिए हमारा फार्मर बहुत चिंतित है। तो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस इस पर कुछ सहायता करे। और हमारा फार्मर का कहना है कि फार्मर डबल इनकम अगर बनना है, सरकार करवाना है, तो एग्री फार्मिंग टूल्स एंड इक्विपमेंट पर टैक्स जो है थोड़ा सा रिलैक्सेशन हो, सो दैट वी कैन प्रोक्यूर all that equipment in a nominal rate. Thank you.
जिला पंचायत मेंबर के तौर पे अपने क्षेत्र की विकास के तौर पे बड़ी सार्थक सुझाव रखे हैं। इसमें से कुछ में मैं प्रयत्न करूंगा उस पे आपको उत्तर दे, उसका कुछ रिस्पांस दे सकूं। आपका क्षेत्र वाकई बात एक बहुत ही सुदूर और रिमोट एरिया है, तो वहाँ कनेक्टिविटी की ज़रूर प्रॉब्लम होगी। इसी के साथ साथ
सॉरी सर, कनेक्टिविटी इज नंबर 1 आफ्टर नरेंद्र मोदी बिकमिंग प्राइम मिनिस्टर। वहाँ 2 लेन ऑलरेडी कनेक्टेड है।
सर, आई वॉज रेफरिंग टू डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी, क्योंकि आपने एजुकेशन से शुरू किया था, तो एजुकेशन में इस बजट में जो सरकारी स्कूल हैं उन्हें राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति, नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के अंतर्गत तो जो सहायता दी जा रही है, उसी के साथ साथ इस बजट में टीवी के द्वारा हर राज्य की अपनी भाषा में प्रोग्राम, हर क्लास के लिए एक चैनल हो, वो सुबह से शाम तक का चैनल होगा, वो टीचर को अलग नहीं करेगा। टीचर जो पढ़ा रहा है, अध्यापक या अध्यापिका जो पढ़ा रही है, उसके पूरक के तौर पे टीवी के माध्यम से भी घरों में पहुंचा जा सके, और वो डिश टीवी से चलेगा, दूरदर्शन का फ्री चैनल होगा। हर राज्य का अपना चैनल वहाँ की भाषा में और वहाँ के डायलेक्ट में। एक तो वो है प्राइमरी स्कूल के बारे में। दूसरा, इस बजट में एक डिजिटल यूनिवर्सिटी का भी एक महत्वपूर्ण अनाउंसमेंट है। हायर एजुकेशन में सभी चीज़ें डिजिटल यूनिवर्सिटी से नहीं कर जा सकती हैं, लेकिन बहुत कुछ करा जा सकता है। तो वो भी एक है माध्यम, जो दूर दराज के इलाके हैं वहाँ पर भी हायर एजुकेशन की रीच को बढ़ाया जा सके, और साथ ही साथ बाकी जगहों को बढ़ाया जा सके। तो वो एक बहुत बड़ा भाग इसमें, इस बजट में एजुकेशन पे रखा गया है। दूसरा, जो डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी, डिजिटल यूनिवर्सिटी के लिए वो डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी बहुत ज़रूरी है। तो भारत नेट के द्वारा ये सरकार की योजना है, उस पर काम चल रहा है कि वर्ष 2025 तक भारतवर्ष के हर गांव में, और मुख्य तौर पे जो दूर दराज के गांव हैं वहाँ पर ऑप्टिक फाइबर ज़रूर पहुँचना चाहिए। खाली ऑप्टिक फाइबर नहीं पहुँचना चाहिए, उस ऑप्टिक फाइबर से जो सर्विसेज मुहैया हो सकती हैं वो भी वहाँ पर उपलब्ध होनी चाहिए। तो उसमें समय लगेगा, अभी हम 2022 में, 2025 में 3 वर्ष का समय है, लेकिन डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी में वहाँ पर भी काम हो रहा है। और एक और बात मैं आपके ध्यान में लाना चाहूँगा, जो इस बजट में एक नया प्रोग्राम अनाउंस हुआ है, वाइब्रेंट विलेजेस प्रोग्राम। जो बॉर्डर एरियाज़ में हमारे विलेजेस हैं, जहाँ की पॉपुलेशन कम है और वहाँ से लोग माइग्रेट कर रहे हैं, वहाँ का हम इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कैसे बढ़ा सकें, और साथ ही साथ वहाँ पे लाइवलीहुड की अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ कैसे कर सकें। तो आई एम श्योर कि आपके क्षेत्र में भी उसका वहाँ पर उसमें कवर किया जा सकता है। और आपने कहा कि आपका ऑरेंजेस का लैंड है, तो अभी तक तो मैंने खाली, मेरा इग्नोरेंस है कि मैंने नागपुर के बारे में सुना था, लेकिन कभी मौका लगेगा तो आपके क्षेत्र में उस फेस्टिवल में भी आना चाहूँगा। थैंक यू।
और एक, मैं आप जैसा उतना अच्छा हिंदी नहीं बोल पाऊंगा, लेकिन फिर भी मैं कोशिश करूंगा। आपका एक सवाल था, शेड्यूल्ड बैंक एक ज़िले में बिल्कुल नहीं है और वहाँ एटीएम का भी फैसिलिटी नहीं है। तो अगर उस ज़िले में पोस्ट ऑफिस है तो आई मीन सून, विद इन द नेक्स्ट ईयर और सो, उस पोस्ट ऑफिस में ज़रूर आपको कैश विड्रॉ करने का फैसिलिटी होगा, क्योंकि इस बजट में अनाउंस किया गया है कि 1.5 लाख हर एक पोस्ट ऑफिस में, भारत में हर एक पोस्ट ऑफिस में कोर बैंकिंग का फैसिलिटी होगा, और वहाँ से इंडिया पोस्ट पेमेंट बैंक का पूरा फैसिलिटीज़ उपलब्ध होंगे।
फिर भी वो बैंक के विषय में, सॉरी, डिड समबडी यू वांट समथिंग? नहीं, हाँ, अरुणाचल से हमारे भाई जो आए हैं लोअर दिबांग वैली से, मैं सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज हैं इधर, उनसे मैं ये रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कि वो बैंक अधिकारीगण सब से जो अरुणाचल प्रदेश में है, जहाँ भी है, उनसे एक बाई डिस्ट्रिक्ट डिटेल मंगवाऊंगी, जिससे मुझे पता चलेगा कि कहाँ है एटीएम, कहाँ है असली ब्रिक एंड मोटार ब्रांच फिजिकल प्रेजेंस। और उसके बाद डिस्ट्रिक्ट अधिकारीगण से बात करके पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी को भी ध्यान में रखते हुए एटीएम प्रोवाइड करने के लिए मैं उनसे बात करूंगी। अभी इससे ज़्यादा मैं वायदा कुछ नहीं दे रही हूँ, मगर उनसे बात करूंगी कम से कम ये समझने के क्या है, एटीएम भी नहीं है, बैंक ब्रांच भी नहीं है, ठीक है, अभी बजट के द्वारा पोस्ट ऑफिस में हम उस सुविधा दे रहे हैं, फिर भी एक असेसमेंट करवाऊंगी, जिसके बाद आपको जानकारी मिलेगा कि एटीएम है कि ब्रिक एंड मोर्टार ब्रांच है कि कौन सा आपके प्रदेश में आने वाले हैं। ठीक है, फिर आपने ये बात उठाया कि IARS और IAS ऑफिसर्स को वापस अरुणाचल से ले रहे हैं। क्यों लेंगे हम? हमें तो उधर बहुत काम करना है, और काम करवाने के लिए सरकार के हाथ में ये अधिकारीगण ही होते हैं ना। सो उनके द्वारा ही काम करवाना चाहिए हमें, और आप भी और हम भी उनसे ही काम करवाना है जनता के लिए। क्यों उनको वापस लूंगी? बिल्कुल नहीं ले रहे हैं। आप आश्वासन लीजिए, हम कुछ वापस नहीं ले रहे हैं, होंगे, मगर काम करवाइए उनसे आप, ठीक है? ऐसे ही आप कॉलेजेस के बारे में बोले। मुझे आपके, मेरा अच्छा सा छोटा भाई समान पेमा कंडू जी से मैं बात करता हूँ, चीफ मिनिस्टर अरुणाचल से बात करती हूँ कि क्या है, क्यों कॉलेजेस का कमी आप महसूस कर रहे हैं, जब अरुणाचल में लिटरेसी बहुत अच्छा है जी। आप लोग इतना पढ़े लिखे हैं, आते हैं, पूरे ऐसे चला लेते हैं काम। सो इसीलिए कॉलेज नहीं है कि मुझे आश्चर्यजनक लग रहा है। मैं फिर भी एक बार स्टेट चीफ मिनिस्टर से बात करके फिर HRD मिनिस्ट्री से भी बात करूंगी। लास्ट पॉइंट, आपने बैंक गारंटर्स, सरकारी नौकरी में जो है उनका गारंटी हर क्लाइंट के लिए बैंक्स मांग रहे हैं, ऐसे बात बोले। मैं संजय मल्होत्रा जी जो सेक्रेटरी DFS है, उनसे इसका जवाब देने के लिए कहती हूँ।
सबसे पहले जस्ट मैम मुझे परमिशन ऑफमेंट, जो आपने बताया कि आपके क्षेत्र में कोई बैंक ब्रांच या ATM नहीं है, निश्चित रूप से जैसा कि माननीय मंत्री महोदया ने कहा है, इसके हमारे पास में विस्तृत विवरणी है जिसको हम बुलाएंगे। लेकिन भारतवर्ष में जो हमारी जानकारी मैं आपको देना चाहूँगा कि हमारा ये उद्देश्य है कि प्रत्येक क्षेत्र में 5 किलोमीटर के दायरे में एक बैंकिंग सर्विस, चाहे वो बैंकिंग ब्रांच हो या BC के माध्यम से, बिजनेस कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट के माध्यम से, यहाँ पे अधिकतर जो सेवाएं हैं, विड्रॉ, कैश विड्रॉ करने की, डिपॉजिट करने की, इस प्रकार की जो सेवाएं हैं, या माइक्रो इंश्योरेंस की, पेंशन, अटल पेंशन योजना की, इस प्रकार की जो सेवाएं हैं, वो 5.5 लाख लगभग इस तरह के क्षेत्र हमने आइडेंटिफाई किए हैं, और उसमें से लगभग सभी को करीबन लगभग 200 ऐसे क्षेत्र हैं जहाँ पे 5 किलोमीटर के दायरे में बैंक की सुविधा उपलब्ध नहीं है। तो यदि आपके एरिया में इस प्रकार का कोई क्षेत्र छूट गया है, तो ये निश्चित रूप से जो है हमारा ये प्रयास रहेगा कि जल्दी ही हम इस प्रकार का वहाँ पे, चाहे वो BC के माध्यम से हो या जैसे मेरे सहयोगी ने कहा इंडियन पोस्ट की पोस्ट ऑफिस की ब्रांच के माध्यम से हो, तो हमारा ये प्रयास रहेगा कि हम वहाँ पे उपलब्ध कराएं। दूसरा जो आपने कहा कि लोन जो है कोलेटरल के बिना नहीं मिलता है, गारंटी के गारंटर के बिना नहीं मिलता है, ये भी एक चिंता का विषय है, इसको भी हम जानकारी करेंगे, क्योंकि 10 लाख रुपए तक के जो लोन है मुद्रा योजना के तहत में बिना कोलेटरल के, बिना गारंटी के, वो आपको मुहैया होने चाहिए, और उसके लिए भारत सरकार ने गारंटी तक भी दी थी। तो इसलिए इसको भी यदि ये हम अपने जो वहाँ पे जो बैंक क्षेत्र के अधिकारी हैं उनसे जानकारी करके माननीय मंत्री महोदया को इस प्रकार से नजर है वो
आपने इनकम टैक्स के विषय में बोला कि शायद हम अब कोई कार्यालय वहाँ पर बंद कर रहे हैं। ऐसा कोई विचार नहीं है। मेरे पास एक लिस्ट है कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट के किस किस स्टेट में कितने कार्यालय हैं, तो आपके यहाँ पर है कार्यालय, और हमारा ऐसा कोई विचार नहीं है कि वहाँ से हम कार्यालय ना रखें। और आपने एक बात रखी कि शायद इनकम टैक्स नॉर्थ ईस्ट से या अरुणाचल से कलेक्ट नहीं होता है, तो मैं मंत्री महोदया और आप सबकी जानकारी के लिए कहना चाहूँगा कि कल मैं कुछ कागज़ पढ़ रहा था जब यहाँ पर आया, तो यहाँ पर लगभग सन 2000 में, आज से 20-21 साल पहले 100 करोड़ के करीब इनकम टैक्स कलेक्ट होता था। लेकिन आपको ये जानकारी जान के अच्छा लगेगा, मुझे तो अच्छा लग रहा है, लेकिन कि आज के दिन 2 दिन पहले हम 6,000 करोड़ से ज़्यादा इनकम टैक्स इकट्ठा कर चुके हैं और 1,000 करोड़ कम से कम या 1,500 करोड़ और आएगा हमें 31 मार्च तक का। तो सरकार के खाते में अगर इतना टैक्स जा रहा है तो इसका मतलब है कि समृद्धि भी आई है, प्रोग्रेस भी आई है स्टेट में, क्योंकि टैक्स एक छोटा प्रोपोर्शन होता है पूरी इनकम का। तो मैं ये नहीं मानता हूँ कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट पूरा कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है देश के टैक्स रेवेन्यूज़ में, और बजट में जो हम स्कीम्स निकालते हैं वो आपके ही टैक्स के पैसे से बनती हैं, और नॉर्थ ईस्ट को जो ये मिलती हैं वो आपका ही पैसा है जो कि वापस नॉर्थ ईस्ट में लगता है। तो मैं ये बात आपके सामने रखना चाहता था।
Thank you, ma'am and sirs, for addressing this crucial issue. Due to time constraints, we'll be taking up the last question now. Meanwhile, if someone still has any comments, suggestion, or queries, they may please share it with us. We will communicate the same to the dignitaries. The last query would be from Shri Gaurav Garodia, President ICAI Northeast Chapter.
Thank you. Welcome to the dignitaries and greetings on behalf of the CA Institute. And as such, this institute is submitting the post-budget and pre-budget memorandum. But just to add on and share the feelings, I would like to have the views of the dignitaries on cryptocurrency. Like other economies have recognized cryptocurrency. So what is the view of Government of India? And like we have seen in the budget that a new tax has been introduced on cryptocurrency transactions. So is this a precursory of recognition to cryptocurrency? And Northeast being a bit connectivity issues are there. So when can we expect the 5G spectrum to roll in after the auctions are done?
इस आने वाले वित्तीय वर्ष में in 22-23 Reserve Bank of India will come out with digital rupee which will be based on blockchain technology. So that will be official digital rupee using blockchain technology. So that there's a budget speech announcement. As far as the so-called private crypto assets are concerned, nowhere in the world they have been used as cryptocurrency except for El Salvador, which have tried to do so. So these are crypto assets. And what kind of regulations will come in? There's a discussion going on at the global level. So at this point of time, we should look forward to digital rupee, which will come in and which will have beneficial advantages, lot of advantages for our own economy, including the payment systems. As far as question on 5G is concerned, even prior to that, getting optic fiber to each village, that's goal number one. 5G rollout, first an auction, and then the rollout is expected in year 22-23. It will start with the larger towns, and thereafter, as the market develops, then it will come to other areas as well. But there's a private sector-driven program where Government of India plays the hand. So this will take some time. It is difficult to put a year on that when it will reach a particular area. Thank you.
Just add one sentence to what he said in a lighter vein, partially. As a one-time investment strategist, I would also advise you to look at what happened to cryptos in the last 2 weeks. So good old-fashioned precious metals are a better alternative to fiat currency.
With this, we have come to an end of the post-budget interaction with the representatives of trade and industry. We witnessed a very enriching session today. The interactive session had active participation of members from various sectors like health, education, infrastructure, and members of various commerce associations. The discussion covered various issues relating to augmenting health infrastructure, education, enhancing MSME ecosystem, bridging the gap between demand and supply, and several others. We are hopeful These interaction and inputs will contribute immensely towards shaping the economic policy of the country. With this, I express my heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Union Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, for leading the post-budget discussion and giving the opportunity to representatives of trade and industry in Northeast India to interact with the government. I would also express my gratitude to the Union Minister of State for Finance for his kind presence. I also thank the panel of secretaries to the Ministry of Finance for their valuable contribution. I also express my gratitude to the representative of trade and industry for their active and meaningful participation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Jai Hind.